Okay, there we go. Hey, hey everybody. Wider angle. Did I have a not as wide of an angle last time? I don't even know. This camera right here, it's got a physical zoom thing on it, so I never know where I am in this thing. So, good evening, European friends. Good afternoon, American friends. Apologies that our layout is a little bit weird because I'm just on the struggle bus here today. So, oh, you should probably say hi, everybody too. You say hi.
Hi, everyone. Everyone. Yep. Hi. I need to work on that. Seriously, I have no elevator pitch. I just don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I literally say hi, everybody. That's it. So I am
Hi,
noticing a bit of potential clipping in the Skype audio just on my display. So everybody, if you're hearing clipping on the Skype audio, let me know and I'll turn it down. Otherwise, we're going to get started, and I will watch the chat and see if there's any. Sounds good in my ears, though. So, all right. So we did a little bit of chatting beforehand to talk about what we're going to be working on today. And what we said we're going to do is try to figure out what a reasonable idea of done with the thing we've been working on looks like, because it feels like the Neo4j has kind of like absorbed our lives for a little bit. Not our lives, but our streams. So what we want to do is get to the
and
point.
our lives.
Yeah, yours.
Be honest.
Because you're learning these things and I'm just ignoring it in between. Because so the kind of the idea is, what can we do to get to the point where there's something that's bundled up enough that there's a small piece of it that's done, right? And so it seems like the best way to get the small piece of it that's done is to kind of have the basics of adding a new person, defining their relationship with somebody else, and then showing the basic relationships between people on the page. And if at all possible, doing so not using that NeoVis thing that we were doing before that is insecure and we couldn't actually use in production. So maybe doing a little bit of basic display of relationships on a Blade generated page or something like that. So what we're thinking here is that, and then also Zuzana actually started some work on that. So we're going to do a quick review on her branch as the first thing we do today. So what I'm going to do is take a look at this. So for anybody who doesn't remember, we've got these basic relationships defined in our Cedar in Neo4j, which is a graph database. And what we're trying to do is build the basic ability for us to add someone, and in adding them, to define the relationship together with another person. So at this point, we had just said, oh, we've got a form, and then all you do is just die on the output of the form. So before we do that, let's actually go take a look at what this looks like on mine, so that we can see what it looks like as we're reviewing the code. So I assume we probably have something like a people/create or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're going to create somebody named Astafast, and we weren't even getting anything at that point. That's curious. Do you know why that is? Did I made a typo or something?
No, you didn't add the name to the...
Oh, I didn't put the name on the text. It was just got it. It was an input without a name. And so that means we didn't get anything through. Okay, so that's where we are right now. Hey, John. So what we're doing now is reviewing the code that is going to validate the input. And so as we can see, we're validating fields that we don't have here. So we're also going to go take a look at those fields. So we've got a name field, a relationship field, and a person field. So the first thing I'm going to think about is this person. I'm creating a person and I've got a person field. So I would probably end up. Yeah, exactly. I was going to put a comment on this, but it's not a pull request, so I can't. So let's, I think I could just make it a pull request. Make it a whip pull request, and then I can leave some comments on it. Okay, so first thing I would do is probably say this, like, I'm not exactly sure, but something like a related to. In the end, this is really just, we're going to rename it in the where we save it anyway. So the next thing is we created new person this way. The thing that I think I'm having a little trouble following is the way that this whole, we're creating a person and then we're creating another person thing. So I think what we're going to do is actually pull this code down and walk through what we're trying to do in line, and then rewrite it. And then we're going to create the cipher for the new person and then the relationship, and then redirect them back.
Yeah.
And then we finally go over to, so do you remember why it was that you had to add in Neo4j bolt?
I don't know. It just threw an error.
Okay, so they didn't have it? Okay.
I don't know, but I should have had it.
Well, I mean, it looks like a very reasonable thing to have anyway, so.
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't.
Cool. Well, we'll figure it out. Thanks for following, Kugrin. So, and then we come in here, and what we have added is basically a relationship field with 4 options: parent, sibling, child, or spouse. And then we've got the related person, where I assume you iterated over all the people in the database, basically. Yes. Okay, cool. And then just a little bit of style treatment.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so let's pull this down. So if you're working in a pull request and you want to pull something down, you come down here, and you can open it in GitHub Desktop, which I have, although I think I might have to switch over to pause real quick, because I bet my GitHub Desktop is not open to this project right now, and so everything's going to... the ye old seeing what other things I'm working on. Okay, cool. I can bring us back to share screen. Okay. So GitHub Desktop, family tree. So what this did was, now I also could have done it by copying the command line instructions here and just running these, but I try to use GitHub Desktop when I'm streaming to make things a little more visual, although it is going to look a little small for some folks. Okay, so we basically did that. So I'm going to have to do a composer install real quick, but I think that's the only change. And so we should be able to come here and see the 3 fields now: name, relationship, and then the person that is related to. Unload database family tree. Okay. I'm not sure. Oh, you know what happened is my entire database got wiped over Christmas break somehow.
Oh, okay.
I came back in and my database was just gone. And I don't really 100% know how, but I do remember that means I need to go create it. So let's go. I got to get used to my my physical things here. All right, censored. Let's censor real quick, and I'm going to open up Table Plus, and I'm going to create a new database family tree. But that also reminds me that I'll probably have to turn on Neo4j at some point. But yeah, so one of the things that ended up happening was I moved all of my MySQL over to Docker because there's Jose at Titan is a huge Docker fan and is convinced that that's going to save me from all my problems. So, and he was right when I was having problems with Memcached. Switching over to a Docker version of Memcache did make my life a lot easier, so I also trust him a lot. So, all right, so we just created that. All right, yep, because we're going to migrate. PHPRs and migrate. Seed. Docker just works except when it doesn't. That is the truth. Unable to connect to TCP localhost 70. Oh, because our seeders are running. Yeah, so I got to open up Neo4j now. Yep, I don't think Docker is the magic that everyone thinks it is. However, one of the things that Jose has really kind of gotten me hooked on is using Docker just to host individual little services like Memcached or MySQL or whatever else. And the reason I originally got hooked was because... am I in a trial?
Why?
The reason I originally got hooked was because I was trying to work on a Microsoft SQL project, and I've had to try and host my own before, and it was just pure misery.
Start the graph, so just start it first.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the notes. Did the same thing a couple days back because I always spent hours trying to fix MySQL. Brew update, yeah. 95% stuff in containers, yeah. Yeah, so running my Microsoft SQL on a Mac was just miserable, and so he showed me how easy, I discovered how easy it was to spin it up in Docker, and that kind of got me interested in the idea of individual services running in Docker. But yeah, I'm not trying to play around. That is the holy grail, which is everything in dev also working in prod, but I'm not even touching that. All right, so we're going to create a new person, and we've got existing. Well, we don't have existing people, so let's run that seed again.
Yeah.
And now we will. Duplicate
seed
entry.
some data. It's PHP artisan seed some data.
Oh my gosh, of course it is. So let's migrate fresh seed. And then I love how I didn't use the seeder. I did see some data, which is totally idiotic of me because it runs in the exact same problem we're running into right now, which is that you're expecting it to work a different way. Okay, cool. So we want to create a... let's call it a child. Wait, what's the simplest relationship we have? Is it child of in
child of,
okay.
Yeah, or married to.
Okay, so let's create another child of let's do married to because child of has 2 of them. So let's stick with a married to Cain. So I would say what should the name of Cain's spouse be?
Do we know her name?
Probably somewhere. I'm just going to call her
Jane.
Jane. Yeah. Okay. She got jokes. All right. Jane is going to be a spouse of Cain. So now we will see the output of this work. So let's, before we actually run that, oh my goodness, why I have so many things running. Let's go open that up. And we're going to go to, what is that, person controller?
Yeah.
People controller?
People
controller.
Sorry.
All right. So the first thing we're doing is validating. So I'm going to convert this long array syntax into short array syntax.
See, I knew there was a way. I knew I saw it somewhere, and I couldn't figure out which way.
Yeah, not a problem
at all. This is the
all.
Laravel learning.
Yeah. And also, VS Code is just telling me that I'm getting a squawk here, which I assume is not used. Yep. So we can get rid of that. All right. So we're validating this. This error right now is a bad error on TLint. We've fixed this since, so don't ignore this. This is a perfectly fine syntax. All right, so one of the things I was saying is I kind of want this person to not be person, but instead related to, so that we know, because when you look at person and you've got multiple instances of person, it's both the person you created. Yeah, so let's do that. So this is what the people create blade file. So right here where we're going through all our people, we're just going to change this select name from person to related to. And we want their name. So right now it's passing their name, but we really want to relate to them based on their ID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do value equals person ID.
Oh, is that why I couldn't get the ID?
Probably, yeah, if you were, yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at this now and you're looking at all these people in here, you're now going to see that the option is value of their eloquent ID, and then the internals is there. Yeah.
So that's why I did what I did, because I couldn't figure out how to
Got it.
ID.
Got it. Okay, so now this is a little bit clearer. This is going to be related to, and then anytime you were pulling request person, we're now going to rename it to request related to. Request, okay. But there's another interesting thing here. So let's walk through what this does. This basically is creating an in-memory eloquent person, which you then manually set the in-memory eloquent person to have the same ID as an eloquent person. Oop. And then in database one. Nope, because this run right here, person create, is still eloquent.
Okay.
So what you'd instead want to do is this. You want to basically, so what we really want to do is just create an eloquent person first. So that's going to be basically person create. And I believe that our person create does not have, we're not storing anything in eloquent other than their name, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this right here is all you need, because this person stuff, this is a person, like an eloquent person object, which we're not really using anywhere after this. So like person relationship doesn't have any value to us. Person.
It will be though.
When's that?
We want to. Well, currently it doesn't, because we're only creating a new person in Neo4j. But once we want to add the relationship to a existing person, you will need to fetch the relationship, won't you? And how
but it would be off of this right here, though.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay,
so basically right here, we now have the full representation of a person. Because if we look at the create people table, all we have is name, date of birth, and date of death, which we're not tracking right now. So everything else is going to happen through relationships, which we may decide to build in here. But right now, our relationships only exist in Neo4j.
Yeah.
So we don't need this, or this. We literally have created them in Eloquent, and now we're going to create them in Cipher, and then we're going to create the relationship in Cipher, and then we're going to be good to go.
You make it sound so easy and simple.
The Cipher part's hard, but the good thing is the Eloquent part is a lot simpler than we're making it here. Because right now, this relationship and this of are purely going to be used for creating the Cipher query, and that's it. We don't need those for anything Eloquent related.
Yeah.
Real quick, the notes in the chat. Why we're not using VS Code Live Share? The main reason, honestly, is because I just switched to VS Code, so I'm not trying to go down that road quite yet, but it is a good idea to switch to soon. A lot of people at Titan use the VS Code Live Share, which is one of the reasons why I switched to Live Share from Sublime Text. And then they're talking about Docker and stuff again. So, okay, cool. So we've created a person. So if we wanted that ID, we would have it. And that actually is something we're going to need. So right here, you've got that person name, which is the same as request name. So that's fine. And then you're setting their name, which is good. And then you're setting the Eloquent ID, which we now have because we created them. So this all right here will still work, although I don't know what they're... Oh, never use string interpolation without braces, says T-lint.
Okay.
And the braces just make it clearer for someone. Now, it is interesting to me that you're mixing using it in the string and then using concatenation. Is there any reason for that?
This is what I copied from seed some data, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I did not...
So seed some data. Oh, right. This right here.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that these ones are using concatenation, and then this one you switch to use interpolation. Both of them can technically be fine. Are you familiar with sprintf? Because sometimes that's a little safer.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's try that real quick and see how we like it. So we're going to basically create this syntax, especially when you're dealing with lots of quotes and parentheses and stuff like that. I really like considering it. So we're basically going to deal with person name, person ID. So, and they're all strings. So we just do %s, %s, %s. And that does the same thing, but it's longer. So that's why I don't always reach for it, but it can be quite a bit cleaner, especially knowing that we're also, and we're also going to do a merge after this, right? And it's I very much enjoy interpolation at times. It's just I just flex back and forth. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is create the relationship, and you had mentioned that you hadn't gotten there yet. So let's figure out how to relate those two people. So what are these for? Is this basically the lookup for these people?
Yeah, this is the original seeds. When you just add it to database.
Yeah, so we need to do one of these to look up a person.
Well,
right, because this line right here is just looking up the person with the name of Adam and assigning the variable Adam, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Gummibär. We had mentioned in previous streams about the idea of doing all the Cipher stuff in event listeners, and what we decided to do was to do it all directly in line until it's working as a spike, and then basically after that, then decide on the architecture we wanted. So basically, you're right, and that's probably where we're going to end up for sure. Yeah. So, but we wanted to keep it all in line until it's actually functioning correctly. Progress over perfection, that's the truth. All right, so I kind of think... Does it just go like that, where you just hit this right after? Okay.
Well, that's what I did locally. Mm-hmm. So then you get the person name. So
the other person we want to be is like the target, right? Related to?
No, the new person. So first you get a new person, then you get the relationship, and then you get the existing person. But how would you now do in the hold on.
So I was thinking this. So this Eloquent ID is going to be the request related to.
Yes.
And then we need to do a third merge, which is actually relating them to each other, right?
Yes.
So this right here. And so we want to take our first person, which is new person, right? Yep.
Yeah.
New person. And we want to make them a relationship of the...
existing person.
Related to, right.
Related to, yeah.
And so then we need to add relationship, and then we need to now figure out how to define the relationship based on this relationship field.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you mentioned was that one of the difficult things about this relationship field, parent, siblings, child, spouse, is that some of them, they're not all the exact same direction.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to basically take all these and figure out how to convert them into hopefully unidirectional. So let's basically do parent, sibling, child, spouse. And we need to look it up out of a table. So parent, sibling, child. Again, we're going to do this inline and then figure out the cleaner option. And then in here, we basically, can you do two? I don't know if you can actually do this, like define the array and then use array brace syntax right afterwards. I feel like I should know that answer, but I don't know. So this is going to be request relationship, right? So spouse would be married to, and that's the easiest one because it's unidirectional. And so the rest of these are going to be.
Well, we have not figured out the sibling. You got rid of. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an accidental.
We don't know how to do the sibling, and also child and parent. So child of is the parent.
All right. So if this person that we're doing is a child of the next one, then so we do know child, which is child of, but we need to figure out how to do these ones inversely, right?
Yeah.
And that would be pretty tough because like when you get half siblings and stuff like that, then that's going to be complicated. And this whole drop down may just prove not to be the best way to do it, but let's at least do the ones we know how to do. So it seems like we can do child of and married to, right? You've got create new person, name. And for anybody who doesn't know, this right here is basically like a temporary variable that you can use to refer to this. So we're creating a new person with a name of name, with an ID of ID. And then we're also looking up another person who has the eloquentId of this related to field that we just passed in. We're assigning that to the variable related to. And then we're creating a new relationship where a new person right here is related to this related to variable right here with this relationship. And this relationship right now is going to be child of if you choose child in the dropdown, or married to if you choose spouse in the dropdown.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready to try this?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so here, how do we test if we did it correctly? I guess
well,
just open up
Neo4j.
All right, so let's go.
Well, you can. Why don't you just dd the cipher query? If you go back to the code.
Yeah, before we even run it, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
I don't think erase it. Yeah, so I wasn't sure if the erase syntax will work. Gummy Bear says yes. Spabby says no. It looks wrong to me. It looks like it's not going to work, which is weird, but I think it's not going to work. But we're going to try it and see. I feel like I should know these sorts of things already. It looks like it works. So let's go back and actually make it the one that makes sense. So Jane is the spouse of Cain. So let's see. Create new person, name of Jane, eloquentId of 7. Yeah. Merge, related to person, eloquentId of 3, which is Cain. Merge, new person, which is Jane. Married to, old person, which is Cain. So, yeah, we'll definitely refactor it, Gummy Bear. So I kind of think that's good. Like, I kind of think that actually works. And we'll notice that if we run that exact same thing again, it'll be eloquentId of 8 because we're dying and dumping after we already create the eloquent object. So, yeah, me too, Spabby. Me too, my friend. So it looks like I bet the child of will work fine too. So let's, make their child's name Smain, and it's going to be a child of Cain. And again, we're noticing the same problem. We're able to do child of Cain, but not child of Jane at the same time. So obviously this drop down is way too limited. Yeah. The first eloquentId is a string. Yeah, Hans, I was just noticing that we probably want to be able to make that not a string in the cipher. So thank you. Create new person, Smain, merge to the other person, Cain, merge new person, child of Smain. Yep, or child of Cain. So let's catch that right there. And I believe we can make it not a string in both. I think that will work correctly, but we'll learn. And look at that, just inserting all those useless eloquent records just for fun. So now we've got a lot of Smains in here. Yeah, okay, cool. So so this really only works for spouse, because spouse is unidirectional, or bidirectional. And basically everything else is going to fail. Child doesn't work because you probably want to give them more than one parent. And sibling doesn't work because it's an inferred relationship, not a defined relationship. And parent doesn't work because it's the wrong direction. Parent actually would be probably the easiest one to fix, but it would run into the same problem that child does, which is there's probably going to be more than one parent there. So this is going to be like a decent, dumb proof of concept, but we're going to have to come up with a new user interface. And that's fine, because I'm the one who introduced this idea in the first place. So let's just see if it works. Jeffrey Davidson, I'm so glad you liked the videos. And y'all are still talking about PHP stuff. Thank you. Okay, cool. So let's just try running it. So we're going to make Jane2 is a spouse of Cain and see if it actually works. Invalid input M, expected wife space, blah, 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 blah. All right, where's our M? It's not this. It might be this merge. This might actually be correct syntax. So let's try this right now and see what happens. Do we need like commas between them or something maybe?
No, but I had it on the new line, but it shouldn't make any difference.
Oh, maybe the new line. I mean, we'll try the new line, see what happens. Maybe it matters for this one.
Maybe. No.
Nope.
Like it.
So let's try running.
Maybe put a white space after the new line. Before, I don't know.
Let's just try it.
Because now it's turned red.
Yeah. Oh, but that who knows whether VS Code actually understands cipher syntax highlighting. Okay. Expected white space, comment, closing parens, or relationship pattern. Line.
Also, you should check it in the Neo4j.
Yeah, that's what I was about to do. I was just about to dump
Yeah.
it out and then grab it.
Yeah.
I think that's our best option. All right. And it says capital M, and our two capital M's are these merges and this married to, and I'm pretty sure it's likely to be the merge, not the married to. Although, let me just go look at that merge syntax one more time. Colon, married to. Yeah, no, that's exactly what we have there. So let's try running this in Neo4j and see what we get. Invalid. Yep, it's merge new person married to. So interestingly, the first merge, first merge works, and the second merge doesn't work. Why, you ask? Am I missing a close? Look at that. It's because we're missing a closing parenthesis. Bam. Did somebody else catch that? Oh, Gummy Bear, you just. Oh no, you said it earlier and I didn't notice it. Look at that. That would do it. All right. Meanwhile, we're just creating like 15,000 Jane 2s. All right, we're going to have to name her Jane 3 now. Is a spouse of Cain. And then let's go get rid of the dump and die. Right there. Take 7. All right.
There you go.
So now let's go look if Jane 3 has a spouse relationship to Cain. There is no record.
I did not get this error.
So that would suggest that she was not correctly created when we did this. Which makes me wonder whether it's this eloquentId, whether or not it's in strings. So let's throw it back into strings. Well, hold on. Let's actually see. Where do we create them? When we were doing eloquentIDs elsewhere, yet we were... So we've been wrapping all of our eloquentIDs in strings so far. The question is, should they all be outside of strings? The likelihood being yes. I want to get rid of Adam there because Adam has nothing to do with it. So yeah, so let's try this really quickly. Let's assume that we can get rid of the strings around all the eloquentIDs, because it does make sense that they would not be string wrapped because they're integers. So didn't we just get... Oh, I added it back temporarily. Let's undo what I just did. All right. So I'm just going to check all our eloquentIDs and see if any of them still would have quotes. Okay. So let's try this. Oops. Fresh seed. And then... seed some data. Why didn't you say that before I deleted all of them? Talking about UUIDs. That's okay. If we did a UUID switch, it would be a pretty big deal anyway, so. Okay, so take 2. Jane, spouse of Cain, submitted. And then we go Jane, and we should see spouse of Cain. There we go. Look at that. Go team.
Fantastic.
Okay. So there's 2 things we can do now. Well, hold on. Let's do this real quick. Let's... all right. So this is refactor, person, create logic. and then convert all eloquent ID records in. You know what, Gummy Bear, now you got me thinking about whether they should be strings just because there's no benefit for them to being integers right now, and then that's more flexible for the future. What do you think, Zuzana?
I don't know. So tell me, why is it better for the future to have them as strings?
So the main thing he mentioned was that if you switch to UUIDs, which have dashes in them, you can't use an integer. UUIDs aren't
What
integers.
is a UUID?
Universally something. It's basically a way to do what's it called? Universally unique identifier. So if you've ever seen these right here, just like this, whatever, it not auto incrementing. There you go. So like, for example, like if you were to go here and we look at person one, like you can automatically guess person one. There's a lot of downsides to it, security and all that kind of stuff. So for many reasons, which we can't go into right now, a lot of people would switch to a UUID. Another thing about UUIDs is that it helps when you're doing certain aspects of scaling because you don't have to know the ID of the previous one in order to generate the new one's ID. So there's a lot of value that doesn't show up till later. But it's pretty healthy to consider that one day you might switch to UUIDs. So what he's saying, normally I would not make any changes to something based around that, but in this particular circumstance, there's no cost that I'm aware of by not just wrapping them in strings right now. So, you know what? I've said all that and I don't care. Do you care?
Okay.
I mean, no, if you care, we'll do it. I just realized we don't have that much time, so. Okay, we're just going to drop it for now. Okay. So refactor person, create logic, convert all eloquent ID records, not records, but properties to integers. So now we can merge it. Let's zoomed in too far. UIDs are super common, the NoSQL databases for these stuff. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Not going to do it right now. Let's put it on a potential to do later type thing. Potentially rewrap all eloquent ID properties in Neo4j with quotes to enable potential future UIDization. It's an official term. Okay. Things we did, review and refactor.
How would you do that then? So how would you then take the IDs and turn them into UUID?
The main thing is you actually end up basically adding a second column to your database that is the UUID, so that you have an auto-incrementing ID and a UUID at the same time, and then you switch all your code over all at the same time to focus only on the UUIDs, and then you delete the auto-incrementing IDs. There's a couple different ways to do it. I'm trying to remember the main one. I think I might have even written a blog post about it at one point. I don't remember what the main one is, but there's a UUID generator built into Laravel from scratch. But getting it to easily work in Eloquent, I can't remember the main one. But I mean, you know, Laravel News, usually Laravel New News writes it up. It's usually worth considering, but also usually if Michael Dorinda creates it, it's also worth considering. So I don't know exactly the best one off the top of my head. Okay. So, but it's not that painful. We've done it on quite a few projects. Okay. So what have we done so far? Review and refactor Zuzana's work. Convert eloquent ID in all Neo4j records to integers. So we've got to figure out our next step. So I think there's probably... Oh, hold on. Let's merge it. That's what we're going to do. I always copy these and they always end up squawking halfway in because it pastes one of the lines into them as you're doing this. But that's okay. And that should auto merge it, I believe. Yep. Okay, cool. So we have to ask ourselves the question of what's the best next thing to do. I would say there's at least two things on our plate right now, and I want to hear which you want to work on. We can either work on making this creation process robust enough that it works for things like parent, potentially even sibling, allowing there to be multiple parents of the children, or we can start working on wherever this, I don't even remember where it is, but the thing where we're doing NeoViz was like people/graph or something like this, like building
No,
well,
just graph.
Oh, slash graph. Building something along here where we actually have a production-friendly, obviously not nearly as beautiful as this, way to kind of visualize what we're doing. Which do you think you'd rather?
I'm going to look into. Don't do this now. I'm going to look into this Vue.js library first to see, because Neo.js is based on Vue.js.
Yeah. We had mentioned doing a little bit of manual work to get that in a more secure way.
So I'm going to look into that. So I'll have to learn about Vue.js. So leave this for now.
All right.
Now you're enjoying yourself, aren't you?
I am very much enjoying that. So the question would be then, how do we make this people create page and work in such a way where all those other relationships work? So spouse works. Cool. Check. Child works but doesn't allow you to assign the other parent. So,
well, can't we have a select when you've got multi-select?
But then we also have to handle the fact that you're kind of on a different form depending on, so basically the form for child is different from the form for spouse, is different from the form for sibling, which might be fine.
Simplify. Why don't we just, what I did here is partly based on your notes from last time.
Yeah.
But it's not that I don't have a strong preference for having a drop down. It's just something that made sense at the time. But if we have, so you add a more like a form kind of thing. So you add a new name and then you select.
You select which of the relationships, and then that defines what's
instead of just like a select drop down, you actually check boxes.
Yeah, and that would basically mean we're creating a new Vue component, and depending on which of those is checked, you're showing the next things differently, and then based on the input there, then you're expecting. And the interesting thing is, both sibling and child are going to expect two inputs. Child is going to expect who are your two parents, and then. Wait, I guess, sibling doesn't work so well, does it? I guess if it's a sibling and you define that it's a full sibling, not a half sibling.
Yeah, but even with a sibling, when we are doing in Neo4j with cipher, we just said it would be an inferred
Yeah, so we don't even really need sibling. We really just, because assuming that you define your parents. All right, so we can just drop sibling. That makes that easier, right? So people controller.
What if somebody, think of it from the user's perspective, what if the user comes in and they want to create their sibling? So how would they then create their siblings? By adding
someone else with the same parents? Yeah.
That'd be good UI, like UX, user experience.
Well, I would say that this right here is probably never going to be how somebody creates something. I guess we have to think about that. My inclination is that you're more creating these relationships from like the people list page or something, where you say, create child or add parent or add something like that.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't actually know. How do you think that would happen? This is, in some ways, this is your product, right? Where assuming that you have a half-defined family tree already, where would you be going to add new people?
No, you probably go to the person where you want to add grow the tree from that person. So you're right.
So do you want to do that instead?
Well, what do you think? Now that you've said it, when I sit in my head, would I go and create a new person from scratch and then add all the fields, or would I just go to the tree, existing person, and then add the person? I think the only new people you would only add right at the beginning, but as your tree grows, you will use this feature less, and then you will instead turn to existing people and that relationship from there.
Although, you know what, let's imagine that there's like an add sibling button here. That add sibling button could just take you to the create person page with certain things pre-filled.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we'll keep building the create person page, understanding that there will be shortcuts later.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to do something really quickly just because this is driving me absolutely bonkers to not have all of our pages represented in the nav, although obviously this is not where it's all going to end up in the end. Okay, people plus person, and then I'm also going to do graph. Oop. Come on, graph. Graph. Why am I having so much Vim trouble today? Okay, so we've got graph. Oh, route graph not defined. Didn't I just? Oh, that was a. In my experience, it's a good choice to create the person as person and have buttons add XYZ beside the person. I'm gonna have to. Oh, you're saying add the relationships. Yeah, the problem is in this circumstance, we don't really ever want any standalone people other than the first one, preferably. So that's why I think that, like, and we do need to think about that. If you start a new family tree with nobody in it, you're going to have to start somebody. But all the other additions from there would preferably be related some way. Now, there are conditions we have to think about later, like what about people where you don't know who one of your parents are? But even in that context, I would probably add that person with a, like, mysterious person whose name we don't know who fathered a child. They still exist even if we don't know a lot about them. So send a screenshot via YouTube. I don't actually know the best way to go see that, unfortunately. I don't know if that's something you can pull up easily. Yeah. Okay. So graph, people, add a person. Okay, cool. So we were talking about building this out. So can we, in 15 minutes, what's the most functional thing that we can do in 15 minutes to do this? Is it to get started on that Vue component for this, maybe?
Okay. Yeah, I don't see it on YouTube either.
Okay, that's okay. I'm kind of inclined that we get started on Vue, even though I know it's going to take more than 15 minutes. You okay by that?
Yes.
All right, so what do we do? We added some links, dropped the concept of sibling. Okay. Okay, so we're going to create a Vue component. Do we have any yet in this?
I don't think so.
Kind of don't think so either.
No.
All right, so for anybody not familiar, we get Vue components for free out of the box, although we seem to be missing the example component. Oh, it looks like the example component got dropped. That's okay. Do we not have all the Vue stuff built in right now? Okay, Vue template compiler. Yeah, let's just go look at OnRamp. I always thought so something happened where Vue either didn't get pulled in or it got pulled out strangely.
Do you get Vue out of the box, or do you have to specify it as you?
You may have to run your whole
the UI.
Yeah, you might have to do that. So, so we got Axios, we got Lodash. I don't know if we need resolve URL. No, we have that. Okay. So yeah, so we'll just pull in Vue here, and then I think that we've got all those the same. So I think we're just going to need our webpack.mix.js file to pull those in correctly. Laravel mix, Tailwind, yep, purge CSS, mix.js, resource app. Yeah, so I think this is all set up correctly for Vue. The only difference is we need to pull in the resources app.js, pull in all the Vue heavy stuff that we normally get in there. So we shouldn't see it in here because this isn't the Vue. Oh no, see, no, you would have gotten this. So I think at some point somebody deleted all this stuff out of it. Oh no, this is OnRamp. This is not the Laravel framework. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this stuff these days now all comes in through through the, what's it called? All right, so let's go into our resources app.js and say this is our NeoVis stuff. And this is our Vue stuff. And then we can get rid of this. These are our two components. We'll drop that. Okay. So what we're going to do here is figure out what's the name of this component going to be. This is going to be create person.
Mm-hmm.
And then same thing here. And then we're going to go to components and then say create person.vue. And I actually don't currently have a shortcut for all the stuff that it comes with out of the box, so I'm going to steal it from another one. Which is really just template and script, but I forget. I think you get methods and data by default on it as well, so I'm just going to grab these just for simplicity's sake. Okay, cool. So here's our basic view right there. So I think this is going to work just fine. So let's do... Oh, did I save my changes to the package.json? All right, so npm install on dev. Okay. So what we're going to want to do is go into our create page and grab basically all of this.
Mm-hmm. Not the button. Do you
Well,
need
you
the
want the
button?
submit button only because you want to invalidate it. We want to do an inline validation just for fun, just to make life easier. So we want to be able to disable it based on Vue. And if that's the case, then we need to be able to grab it as well. We don't technically then need the name, but if we're going the whole way in, why don't we just take the whole form? Because sometimes that's a little bit smoother. So this is going to be create person, and we are going to pass in the existing people right here. And I always forget which one you're supposed to use. There is this @JSON thing, but I think I remember everyone telling me that's not the way you're supposed to do it. So let's try this. There's been long conversations at Titan about which way the best way to pass stuff into Vue is. But I'm going to just try this right here and kind of think that might be the right one. So we basically got a create view person view component that's passing in the people by JSON encoding in people. And then the rest of this stuff, I believe the way to do it is put the form inside of the view component, but it might be to put the view component inside of the form. When you're using your view component to submit a existing form, I always have a little trouble remembering what the correct one is. So, you know, actually, let's do this because then we get our CSRF. Let's just try this. I can't remember whether you can submit a form from a view component within the form like this. We're just going to try it. We're just going to try it and see what happens. All right, so go to our create person here. Let's just grab these by default. I'll take a look at that comment in just a second. I probably already talked about this. Are you using OBS? No, I'm not using Catalina. I've heard that Catalina...
I am though.
Yeah, you were able to fix it?
Yeah, so you have to run it from the terminal. So instead of... Because when I tried to open it by the, the app, it would crash. It wouldn't even open sometimes. But if you run it through terminal, and I don't remember what the command is, but you can find it on OBS. Oh, I don't have it here. Do I have it here? Just a second. Oh, God. It was a command I found on the OBS chat. But it was, if you run it from the terminal, it works. I don't know why Hold on, I can't find it. Because I've got my terminal. I don't think I've closed my terminal for weeks now. Because I use iTerm for normal stuff, but terminal for OBS stuff. And yeah, I have a lot of info.
While you do that, I just gotta line up the versions of these two packages.
Okay. See, I don't want to run it in case it crashes our live sharing like screen. But I think what I ran was just application/obs.app/contents/macOS/obs. And if you run this file, or depending where you have your OBS saved installed. So if you run the path to your OBS in the terminal, it should run. But yeah, I got it from the OBS chat.
All right, so if we are in our create person thing, what are we going to do our conditionals on? It's going to be based on this relationship concept here. So don't worry about it. So we're going to have a piece of data. Right now we'll make it just data, not a prop. That's going to be relationship type. And then based on that, we'll be switching what happens down here. Miko Lawakari says at JSON works great. The only time that at JSON doesn't work is when there are weird encodings of single quotes inside of it, I believe is when the problem is, Miko. Again, I've learned and tested and then forgotten it 100 times, but I think what we found was while the blade at JSON directive is intended to be the right solution, there are occasions where it breaks, and I'll be honest, I assigned Logan Henson at Titan to be the one who did all this work, and he did a great job of researching it, and I just don't have that information in front of me. But I'm pretty sure that the answer he came up with was don't use at JSON because it breaks occasionally. All right, so another error. Unexpected token. I'm sure that's because we have blade. Yeah, it's okay. That's fine. So we're using blade in here, and we obviously can't use blade. Or we can't use PHP. So this is just going to be, let's just pull this out of here and find any of those things. And Miko, I wish I could tell you more about that right now, but I just don't have that off the top of my memory. Okay, so what we're doing right here is rebuilding this form, except rebuilding it in Vue. Okay, so this one's going to be like a v4 equals person in people, and then this is going to be like person.name or something like that. What's our error here? Elements in duration expected vbind key directives. Yeah. So it's key equals person.id, I think is how it works, right?
I think so.
And then this is our relationship. So we're going to model this to the relationship type. Which means I think we have to allow for a non-defined one for it to be null-ish. Something like that. And then I don't know if we need a view model on this because this is literally just being used to submit the thing. So, and then we'll have something along the lines of like, well, let's hold on. Let's just get this not erroring first. See how that treats us. And anybody who's following along the stream, if I'm rushing on this Vue stuff, I remember that when I was doing lots of Laravel streaming, I was trying to move really slowly and explain things as I go. And now that I'm learning so much as I go with this Neo4j stuff, I'm not going as slowly or explaining as much. So if you find yourself having any trouble following along, please, 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 just bring it up. All right, so I have the React helpers in here, but oh no, I do have the Vue helpers, but it's not detecting it. Okay, why is it not helping it? Or just detecting it?
Normally, it's if you use the minified version, it doesn't like it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm running npm run dev.
Yeah.
So it should be getting it. It's probably something about how when I copied the Vue stuff in here, it didn't copy it fully. So window view equals require view. We have Vue installed in package.json. Yeah. And then we are creating a app right here, a new view, and we're binding it to the element with the ID of app. And we have an element with an ID of app in here. And we have a component on this page, which is bound as create-person. And then we go in here. Our app has a component named create-person, which is bound to this create-person. And there's a component named create-person.view. And in here, we've got a functioning component. So, and we have no errors in the build, and we have no errors in the console. Oh, hard refresh. Awesome. What is this? I think this is the encoding of it still breaking. So let's figure out what I did wrong there. Oh, I think it's because I did double bangs on the thing and that gave it double quotes. So it's back to this thing where we're passing in this thing. So let's try this. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, because if you JSON encode it with the two bangs, then it's going to have a double quote, which would override this. So let's see if that's the solution, and if not, then I'll try with single quotes. Okay, so our view component is working correctly, and we've got two errors. People's not defined on the instance, but is referenced during render. Oh, okay, so we didn't define it as a prop here. And then what was our other error? Oh, 404 on the fave icon. Okay, cool. All right. I remember that when you're defining props, you can do this whole thing where you can say like type array. It's something like that, but the syntax is, I never remember the syntax for this. Is this something you remember off the top of your head?
No, I don't know. I don't have enough experience with Vue.
I have enough experience to know that I know it and then forget it. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Cool. Great. All right, so I put a v4 on the select, and I meant to put a v4 on an option, which is why we're seeing a whole bunch of selects there. So let's fix that. Option, and then grab these. All right, like that. Okay. See how that treats us now. Okay, great. So we've got name, relationship of blah, blah, blah. So let's assume that here we were doing a little bit of differentiation based on that relationship type. Let's make sure it is actually updating as we're hoping. Great. Okay, cool. So we've got the basics rebuilt, and I bet that we can actually make Jane2 a spouse of Cain, and it should work correctly. Nope, just kidding. Variable Cain not defined. So I'm pretty sure that just means that we posted something different than we were expecting here. Should probably have required true in the prop. Yeah, definitely. Spouse of Cain. What are we getting here? Oh, because it's coming through JSON. So, well, no, they should be able to be pulled out of the same way, though. Name is Jane3, relationship is spouse, related to is Cain. Oh, Cain instead of the ID, that's why. All right, first we'll do what John mentioned, which is making it equated. Label 98. Hello, welcome. So let's make this, how's it go? Just like this, required true, like that. So there you go, that's what it was. Value equals person.id. So instead of passing in the name, we're going to pass in the ID. And we now should look at those JSON parameters. Oh, did I get rid of the dump and die, I guess? I guess I did. All right, so we got Jane3, and Jane3 is a spouse of Cain. Okay, great. So what we just did right now was basically in Vue replicate exactly what we had in not Vue, which is enough for us to then kind of go and rebuild that next time. To be differentiated. So basically, add view, rebuild, person, create form in Vue. I don't even know what kind of tests we have here, because I know that most of our complexity is in Neo4j, which I can't even begin to imagine how to test until we build an actual PHP adapter for it. So what did we do? We reworked people create page in Vue, and things to do later. Update person create page so that the form orients itself. I don't know. Based on the chosen relationship type. E.g., if I choose child, then allow me to pick two parents, etc. Okay, cool. And then, of course, also update people controller and its validation appropriately. Okay, cool. So it's nice because while there was a little bit of Neo4j today, which is good, most of this was Laravel, and most of this is Laravel and Vue, which I like. I was mentioning earlier that I wanted to kind of make sure we get some of that in there. So we did some Vue, we did some Laravel, we did some PHP, some fun array syntax niceties there. So let's say that next time we got to the point where you had worked out the visualization, on your own, where you were doing visualization not with this insecure thing, and we were able to build this form to work correctly. that's kind of our like super MVP, right? Like to be able to add people, to be able to visualize the relationships that exist.
Yeah.
And of course, you want to be able to edit and delete people. And that wouldn't be that tough. What would be harder is to edit or delete relationships or add relationships after the fact. But those all can still make sense. Like say, create two people, and then what relationship do you want to add between these two people? That actually could be a relatively easy form to do and doesn't have to be super complicated. That can also be in Blade. So it seems like there's relatively small amounts of work between now and this being an ugly but functional family tree, which I like. Couple more weeks of this and a little bit of your work on the side, and I feel like we've got something pretty good. So, how you feel?
Good.
Yes.
Good. I think I can see the end of the the tunnel now.
You can see it in sight. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, as always, we'll put up this playback with the show notes on YouTube a little bit later. You can subscribe. Okay, let's see if I can remember it. Twitch.tv/ZUZ. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Zuzana _K.
I've not done any streams because holidays, kids in the house.
They just need to go subscribe, and then it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
We'll be back next Monday at 2:45 Eastern. And I hope you all join us again next time. Family pets next time, John. All right. Thank you, everybody. See y'all later.